Demeanor is the worst song on the album, easily. That song is the biggest example of like an artist that you talked about earlier working with someone that they may or may not have worked with, like if they were alive, and it feels very weird. Like the pop, I like Dua Lipa. I like her last album. I think she's one of the better artists in pop, but it just doesn't work. The song itself does not work together. It's a really forced, just it's trash, bro. Like, I can't even dance my way around it verbally. Like it's just not a good song.
Let me put you on game.
But let's move it along to our review of the Pop Smoke album, Faith. Close out our show. It's Pop Smoke, if you're not familiar with him, a New York rapper now who unfortunately was tragically killed last year. And this is his second posthumous album. He was definitely on the rise before his untimely demise. But yeah, this album is a culmination of a lot of his unfinished work and a lot of features from a lot of other artists. And what are you thinking about the Pop Smoke album? Your overall thoughts?
My overall thoughts is this album was, I feel like it was overall pretty good, especially as far as posthumous albums go. But it also suffered from the same fate that a lot of posthumous albums suffer from, in that being the artistic direction. Even if a posthumous album is good or bad, the artistic direction is not the actual will of the artist and comes down to the producers and the people who have their thumbprint on saying yes and no. So for this album, it's likely coming from, I believe his name is Victor Stone, which is I think his name is Victor Stone. He's the CEO of the record label that controls, Pop Smoke's music. And a lot of decisions had to come from this individual, as well as the producers that he entrusted to create the album. And so I love that you got a heavy dose of Pop Smoke. I've always found Pop Smoke to be a really fascinating artist because of his voice. He had one of the most unique voices that hip hop has seen over the last couple of decades. And you really love to hear that voice used as a tool to make interesting sounding music and come at rap in a different way. So even if his content lyrically was similar to others, his charisma on the track and his voice on the track was so unique that you couldn't really ignore it. I remember the first time I heard people saying his music, it was in like 2019, and it was singing "Welcome to the Party" at this barbecue. And I'm like, who is this person that they're talking about? Pop who? Pop Smoke? Okay.
Yeah.
And like they were just going off, and like I was listening to his voice. I'm like, man, his voice is really unique. It's really different. I can't quite understand what he's saying, but I wanted to hear his music later. And then I also found out that someone I play 2K with actually produced some of his music, or at least
wow.
he got to work in the studio with him, which was really cool. And so I kind of became like, a niche fan, and I enjoyed songs like "Welcome to the Party" and Dior. He really hooked me. And then also with songs like "Have Mercy on Me," featuring 50 Cent. But yeah, his untimely demise meant that ultimately his work would have someone else's finishing touches on it. And I think that's what this album suffered from at times, because it was quite long, because some of the features were a bit spotty or had more of the artist that was featured on it, their touch on it, more than Pop Smoke's touch on it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what was maybe the downfall in some ways of this project. And I have some other artists, some like other projects, posthumous projects that I compare to is "Born Again" by Biggie, where that had enough Biggie to be considered a Biggie album, but then they reuse some verses from other projects, and the songs that did feature Biggie mostly also had other artists that he may or may not have actually collaborated with. You had guys like Eminem, you had guys like Method Man, who he would have collabed with, but then guys like Redman, or you had other like groups like Young Money, no, Cash Money. They feature the whole Cash Money, roster on one of the songs on Born Again. And you saw, and so it's like, okay, would he have actually made collabs with all these different people, or also with like a Snoop Dogg in 1999? It might have happened, but it might not have. And he didn't really have the choice to make. And so what I really feel like posthumous albums show is this snapshot of an artist as opposed to what this artist actually could have become.
Yeah. No,
How
I
about you?
feel you. Uh, it's pretty mediocre for me, to be honest. It feels really thrown together in spots. It feels like they took hooks and verses from different songs in different places and put them together rather than like actually just finishing unfinished songs. Like I think about Mac Miller's last album, Circles, and his album was like 90% done, but it just really needed the finishing touches to actually come through and be released to the public. And that felt like a cohesive project. But with this album, it kind of feels thrown together. I heard that Bad Chick Yellow Jello line at least like 4 times. Like no joke. Like it just didn't need it. Like there was just certain things on the album that just didn't really fit. This is actually my first Pop Smoke album that I listened to all the way through. I've heard all of the singles, but it makes me actually want to go back and listen to some of the projects that are actually better received. Because like I said, like you said, I do like his voice. I think he has one of the most distinctive voices in hip hop, and he actually brings a lot to each different track that he's on. But some of the tracks are just really convoluted. But to get into the actual album, I actually like the beginning of the album a lot. I
Yeah.
think that More Time is good. I love Television. I don't really like Push's verse that much, but I think it's a really inspiring instrumental. It's him talking about like a classic rags to riches story that you hear in a lot of rap songs, and it has these really great harmonies on the chorus. Manslaughter is great, really great verse from Rick Ross. The instrumental is great. The beat itself is very Kanye-esque with like that high-pitched soul sample. Uh, it's a great hook, even though it's really weird to hear that considering the circumstances of his death. And I have that issue with like Biggie sometimes and other rappers that died from gun violence but promote it in their songs. So it always kind of has like a weird sort of vibe to it, especially like with the
Yeah.
manslaughter homicide thing. It felt weird, but the song itself is fine.
Yeah.
About a Million is cool with 21 Savage and 42 Doug. 21 continues to kill like every feature that he's on, regardless of the sound. Brush Him was okay. I like Top Shot. I like the kind of soca influence instrumental.
Yeah.
I like Pusha T's verse, even if I'm not really a fan of the hook. 30 is okay. And Beat the Speaker is kind of where the album starts to go downhill a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Coop is meh. What's Cracking is meh. Genius is the hook is really bad on that song.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones is
Yeah.
not really all that great. And then
Yeah.
Woo Baby is where the album takes a complete nosedive. Like it's all bad from here on out. Woo Baby is really unnecessary and I don't understand it. Uh, it's the beat actually kind of sounds like So Sick by Neo to me in the intro for some reason. I listen to it again. Like listen to the
I
beginning
think I
of
know what
that
you're
beat.
talking about.
It
I
sounds
think
it
I know what
sounds
you're
like
talking
So
about.
Sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, Spoiled by Pharrell is terrible.
Yeah.
Demeanor is the
Yeah.
worst song on the album, easily. That song is the biggest example of like an artist that you talked about earlier working with someone that they may or may not have worked with, like if they were alive, and it feels very weird. Like the pop, I like Dua Lipa. I like her last album. I think she's one of the better artists in pop, but it just doesn't work. The song itself does not work together. It's a really forced, just it's trash, bro. Like, I can't even dance my way around it verbally. Like it's just not a good song. Eight Ball, I thought Kid Cudi kind of tried to save it, but it wasn't great. And then Backdoor and Mercy Buku are uh, yeah, you can have them. But those are that's all I got for you, bro.
Yeah. I gotta really agree with majority of your list, because in my favorite songs category, all the songs that you mentioned, plus one extra song actually made it. I enjoyed More Time. The first when I was first listening to it, I was like, yo, the beginning of this project is dope. But like you see in a 20 track album, when you have 20 tracks, you gotta be real careful. Not everything can be College Dropout where every song is amazing. You're gonna have some duds in there, and um, that's what this album, was a casualty of that. I thought Brushing was cool. The 2-man game that they played on that song, and I also felt the same way about Top Shotta. About a million. The hook on that was really solid. Um, More Time was a really good. Just I like that they at least left the first song to be his, and they didn't try to like force anyone else into it. And I actually enjoyed Demeanor. I
Oh
I
God.
yeah, I understand the criticism.
That's why you were making that face. You were like, yeah, I look, you love that though. That's my you hating on it, but that's my jam, though.
I can't front. Every time the music comes on, I was like, yeah. Because it is a weird mix, but to me it works because his voice over dubstep and that electric house music, it works. The grittiness of him, to me it worked. It spoke to me, and I could see it actually being played in a club.
That's not that's not it for me, bro. It's not it.
Hey, I'm okay for a difference in opinion. But I think that's really where we differ at all. The decent tracks like 30, Beat the Speaker, Coop, What's Cracking. It's better. Actually, I thought What's Cracking was decent because it was better than I thought it would be. When I see Takeoff as the only member as a feature on a song, I get like a little apprehensive. But he showed up, and I thought he had a solid verse. And I thought the song was decent. Mary Bacoop was not a great song, but it was nice to just hear Pop Smoke talking. Giving whatever advice he could to the world. Probably, not I don't know how much advice he has recorded, but it was nice to hear that. And like you said, with Ms. Jones, that Future song was Mr. Jones. Sorry, it was not good. The hook was very cringy. I could see why maybe he chose not to use this song. Projects like this, you wonder how many verses that made it onto this project was just stuff that he wrote, he performed in the studio, and then they went back and were like, yeah, nah, this ain't it. We'll just keep those in the storage files and not actually use. I think about on Born Again, because I listened to this album so much when I was younger. A song like Dead Wrong, I understand why that song wasn't released during Biggie's career, because it was really dark. It was like really, really dark. And as a teenager, it didn't really bother me, but as an adult listening to it, I'm like, yeah, this song is kind of messed up. And so from an artistic perspective, you can see why Biggie probably didn't go with that song, or probably wasn't ever going to use it. But and I wonder how much of this album was just stuff that they threw into the back burner and never expected to actually use, but ended up getting pushed to the front. That's always a question that I don't know if we'll ever get an answer to unless somebody gives their honest take. But yeah, Spoiled was boring. I think Pharrell tried to add some Pharrell vibes to it, but it was short. He
didn't try hard enough on that one, man.
Yeah, 8 Ball was decent, like you said, but it was another boring song, and I wasn't really feeling the vibe that Cudi brought to it. And Backdoor wasn't terrible, but I don't think it was optimized for Pop Smoke. It felt like a song that was optimized for Quavo and Kodak. Yeah, I'm like, this isn't a Pop Smoke beat that I'm familiar with. And oh my God, Woo Baby. I was like, they just brought in Chris Brown and say, Chris Brown normally makes hits. Chris Brown and Pop Smoke. I think that could work.
Yeah.
Just like a label exec saying, yeah, let's just get artists with buzz names who are popular right now that we think can get the job done. But it just didn't work overall. And posthumous albums are always a mixed bag. You think
They're
about
tough, yeah.
Tupac. I think Tupac has probably the most posthumous albums, and I haven't even listened to all of Tupac's albums, but posthumous albums. But at least they're some. It's tough because you have some verses and some really interesting songs, but just a lot of forgettable ones in between, and
Yeah.
you never know what the artist actually would have signed off on had they been around. So, but at the same time, the people wanted Pop Smoke and they got Pop Smoke. But there is some controversy around this album in the fact that some of his fans have disavowed the project completely because of a lack of collaboration with some people that were closer to Pop than others.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I mean, I think if anything, I hope that his family is able to profit off of it, because it's almost like an NBA draft pick that dies too young, or gets hurt at the beginning of his career. Like, he had so much earning potential that him and his family members and loved ones are never going to get to see the benefit of. So if that's what they got to do as far as posthumous albums to actually be able to get some of that and be able to live their lives and go on, then that's fine. That's probably why it's 20 tracks, because streaming numbers help with that when you have longer albums. But yeah, overall, just from a critical perspective, like, it's just not a good album. But I am intrigued, based on the good parts that I did hear, to hear what he has to offer from his previous work, and especially the work that he had when he was alive, because I do like the singles a lot from his previous albums. But yeah, let's go into favorite tracks. Let's go top four, since it's so long. You can give me Television, Manslaughter, About a Million, More Time.
Okay.
Literally the
Yeah.
first first couple songs.
For me, I'm gonna stay on my stand with Demeanor, Top Shotta, Television, and More Time.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe Manslaughter over Top Shotta. Yeah. I'll swap out Manslaughter for Top Shotta. So yeah, More Time, Television, Manslaughter, and Demeanor. Those are probably my favorites. So at least I feel like there's enough on the album that you understand who Pop Smoke was as an artist, and there was also enough there with the production that was good to not really give you everything that he was, but to give you some entertainment value and to show you, like, man, this guy was really special and he was onto something.
Yeah. All right.